Hey, George Miller, I've got 4 words. More of this, please. Welcome to The Haunted Beard, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jake. Well, I finally got a chance to sit down and watch one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and that is Furiosa. And this is, of course, the follow-up, but really the prequel story to Mad Max Fury Road. And it has been a long time in the making, 9 years, I believe, if memory serves me correct. And man, it was well worth the wait. Furiosa is quite an entertaining and enjoying ride. I'm going to get into my thoughts for you today, so let's do it. Now, there are a lot of positives in Furiosa, and I'm going to spend the majority of my review talking about them. But it's not a perfect movie, as I do have a couple negative, mixed aspects that I want to get into first. First off, being that this is a prequel, it does suffer from a little bit of what I call prequel syndrome, which is pretty much unavoidable to any sort of prequel movie, in that you already kind of know what the end of the movie is going to look like. You kind of already know the outcome, and so right there, it hinders you a little bit in sort of payoff and some of the suspense and stuff like that. You can kind of usually tell what characters are going to live, what characters are going to die, and things like that. And Furiosa isn't really much of an exception. You really kind of know ultimately where this is headed in the end game. Now, given what I've already said, it by no means ruined my experience, but it does take a little something away from it. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is more of a mixed aspect, has to do with some of the visuals and the CGI. And look, 95% of this thing looks phenomenal, but there were a few moments in there where it felt pretty obvious that I was looking at CGI. And I know in some way that's kind of unavoidable, but to get into that a little more specifically, there's a few moments where it almost looked too good, like everything looked too polished, to where it looked so good and so clean and perfect that it kind of took me out of it and just made me realize, like, oh yeah, well, we're looking at computer-generated imagery here. And so, like I said, the vast majority of this looks pretty fantastic, but there were a few moments where it almost looked too perfect for me, and it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. And when you compare this to Fury Road, I think it relies a little bit more on CGI than Fury Road did. And so there was just a few moments where I kind of noticed it more than I probably should have or really wanted to. And then my final kind of mixed element really has to do with Anya Taylor-Joy, and it has nothing to do with her performance, but it has to do with the fact that she doesn't show up until about an hour into the movie. Now, I think the actor who plays her at the younger age does a good job, but Anya Taylor-Joy is so good in this role that I guess I'm just saying I wish we would have gotten more of her. And so the fact that the first hour is devoid of her is just like, oh, I just wish we would have gotten a little bit more from her. But that's really the only kind of mixed negative stuff I have to say about this. The rest of it is all quite positive. So let's get into what I really liked about Furiosa. The first thing I have to say is that George Miller is a visionary. This guy is pretty incredible. He is able to create such an immersive experience, and it just totally transports you to this world, to the wasteland. And man, the visuals, the landscape, this is like epic movie making on the grandest scale. Like, I'm going to say this is almost like the modern day equivalent of like a Lawrence of Arabia kind of thing. Like, this is this generation's Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, just this epic, grand, massive scope of a movie. And it's just a whole lot of fun just entering into this world for 2.5 hours and watching all the craziness and chaos unfold. And it's this bizarre, weird, twisted, unique world. This movie has such its own unique flavor, and I really admire and appreciate that about it. And in Fury Road, George Miller showed us his, I think, full capacity and potential directing action sequences. I mean, the action sequences in Fury Road are some of the best I've ever seen in my entire life. And we do still get some really solid action sequences in here, But instead of just simply focusing mostly on the action, he's now really concerned with story more so than the action. And so you get a little bit of a different approach here with Furiosa, but I think that's a good thing. And obviously he's here to tell Furiosa's story and really kind of expand and build on and flesh out that character and show you the things that she's gone through and what made her into what she is. But in addition to that, you still get some pretty freaking fantastic action sequences. And there's a couple sequences in this movie that kind of blew me away. I'm talking eyes wide, jaws dropped, where I'm just watching this thing and I'm having an absolute blast. Some of the camera work too in these car chase sequences is fantastic. I mean, just incredible. You get a really cool shootout scene as well, explosions, incredible set designs. It's just all around a whole lot of fun to watch this thing. And all that comes back to George Miller and his incredible vision that he is able to fully display on screen. And of course, I can't talk about Furiosa without talking about the title character, and specifically Anya Taylor-Joy's performance. And I think she crushes it. And her performance too, and how good it is, I think also kind of lends back to George Miller's talent as a director. I mean, he's such a visual storyteller, obviously, but not only that, is that sort of visual storytelling, it goes into the performances he gets out of the actors, because Anya Taylor-Joy, she doesn't say a whole lot, and so she has to convey visually and through facial expressions without using a whole lot of words. You know, she has to communicate her performance that way, and she does such a fantastic job. Man, her eyes, there are a few sequences in this movie where just looking at her eyes, man, just powerful. And like her eyes say everything that needs to be said and communicates all the emotions that you need. And that obviously all goes back to her talents and abilities as an actor. So I really liked her performance in this. I thought she did a really solid job. Also, too, I can't talk about this without talking about Chris Hemsworth. I mean, talk about a guy. I mean, he had to have the most fun ever playing this character of Dementis. Man, he's pretty great. He's this nasty, evil, wicked dude, and he is hamming it up in the best possible way. Really enjoys his performance. Also, too, his motorcycle chariot is like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I like the overall story structure, too, as the movie presents itself in 5 chapters. And so, given how the film ends, it almost kind of comes off as this sort of mythical legend of the wasteland kind of thing. I like that aspect. I thought that was kind of a cool choice. And then I have to talk about the ending, and I won't get into any specifics or spoilers or anything like that, but I'll just say this, specifically the final scene involving Furiosa and Dementis, I think is pretty fantastic and satisfying. And man, I thought the writing in it was really good, and specifically Hemsworth's performance in it and what he is saying. I mean, it's a revenge story, and what he says about revenge really is it's just really good. I was just really impressed with the writing and their performances, and I thought it was just a fantastic kind of final scene between those two characters. Overall, I really enjoyed Furiosa. I really hope George Miller gives us another one so we can have another kind of modern trilogy now of the Mad Max movies. And whatever he does, if he enters back into this world, I will definitely be watching it. So I'm going to give this, I'm definitely at an 8. I feel like I'm verging into an 8.5. It's kind of somewhere right in there. But yeah, this is a really good one. I thoroughly enjoyed myself with it. So those are my thoughts on Furiosa. Hit me up down below, like always. Let me know your thoughts on this one. How does it kind of compare for you with Fury Road? Do you like it more or less? And just, you know, what did you like about it and all that? Would love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this, you know what to do. Go ahead and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.